Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Mormon Atheist. All right, apostate congregation, welcome. Like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Tonight, we are going to bring you, today is November 15th, 2025, okay? Uh, Thank you, everybody, for liking, subscribing, and sharing the channel. Uh, your I don't want to say support because we're not monetized. So support's not really the interactions, maybe. Thank you for your interactions with the channel because that's what really keeps this channel going is you guys reading the books, looking stuff up that I talk about. Um, that's really the heart of this channel is you, the apostates, right? So thank you, everybody. Even the people that are not subscribers, the people that can't subscribe, etc. Tonight we're going to tune in to the words of Pomeroy Tucker, okay? One of the earliest printed accounts of Joseph Smith's earliest magical practices, okay? We are going to get into some magic tonight. And I know a lot of you guys like this subject because it is a really interesting subject. And what is it? We all want to know what it is. What is it? There's all kinds of speculations and all sorts of stuff. But as we do on this channel, we go to the source. What does the source say? So tonight we're going to go to the source. And tonight our sources are going to be these. This is the Ars Goetia, the Ars Theurgia Goetia, the Ars Paulina, the Ars Almadel, the Ars Notoria. It's all compiled called the Lemegeton, right? This is what's known as the Lesser Key of Solomon. Is this? This is what's called the Greater Keys of Solomon. Okay, and we're going to talk about some Solomonic magic, apostate congregation, and how that relates to Mormonism, because we are the Mormon Atheists, so we bring it to you. All right, anyways, let's keep going. So I want you guys to bust out your handy dandy Goetia, and I know you all have one in your bookshelf, right? It's, who doesn't, right? All right, so we're gonna tune in to the words of Pomeroy Tucker, okay, and his book. Okay, he one of the earliest printed accounts of Joseph Smith's earliest magical practices. We'll turn on to the hidden worlds of the magical rituals and talismans that shaped church origins. Okay, and we're gonna drop out of modern society apostates for a while, stepping back in time, taking a walk through history. Okay, so buckle up, congregation, because we're about to jump into the time machine and we're going to go back into the 1820s and 30s, the late 1820s and early 1830s, right into the heart of Palmyra, New York, right where it all began, apostate congregation. We'll explore the foundations of Mormonism guided by Pomeroy Tucker. Okay, Pomeroy Tucker, his book, right? I can't. So so listen to his book, okay? His book is published in 1839. All right. So what me and you go to archive.org, we look up his book, we see the rise, the progress, of Mormonism, the origins, and It's 1867. Okay, so when I went and read this book, I read this book a long time ago, right? Like a year ago, all right? And so when I was reading this book, I noticed that, okay, the book is published in 1839. So on this channel, we go to the earliest known, and the way that I do it is I look up the author, right? I find out who he is, all this kind of stuff. What is his relation to Mormonism? You know, I really find the ins and outs of these authors before I even read the book, because it gives me that perspective of why these people are writing these books and stuff like this, right? Plus, you read the preface, right? I tell you all, read the preface. Without the preface, you have no idea what the book is legit even about, right? So, Pomeroy Tucker's book, I'm reading the preface and I'm thinking to myself, this doesn't sound right. So then I continue, you know, my flags are up. I'm thinking, something is not right with this book, right? This is why I have waited until now to bring you the book. This is legitimately why I have waited, because I didn't understand, right, what this book was. I didn't understand this book because I understood what it was saying and all this kind of stuff, but this book is published in 1839 and we're getting an 1867 edition. So in reading this thing, okay, so my red flags go off during the preface. So then it goes into the chapters. It starts naming off the chapters, right? Well, it starts talking about the death and martyrdom of Joseph and Hiram. And I'm like, what? That hasn't happened yet. What's going on here? Like, what's up with this book? You know, like, what's going on with this, right? And this was just recently. I'm rereading this book, right? Because I've got a lot of questions about it, right? So lately my last few videos have all really been kind of focused on the later year, the Brighamite era, and that's not my focus. My focus is Joseph Smith, right? Stay, so I've been doing these videos and I've been kind of getting bored with the Brighamite subject, right? So I'm thinking, all right, well, let's go back to home base here and go back to, Joseph. And so I'm rereading this book and I'm, these same questions pop up, but as I'm reading the book, it gets even heavier because there's a point in the book where like it has like a side note, like this would pertain later on in the church. And I'm thinking, what the F? Like, that's just does not make sense. How would this guy, like, it's almost like he's prophesizing, right? Like he's telling the future in a way. So this is not jiving with me. Okay, I'm thinking this isn't right. So I start looking into his book. I start Googling his book and chat GBTing, and I really start researching his book, and it comes to find out that the 1867 edition is Pomeroy Tucker's book all the way up until around page 150, depending on what version you're reading or what you get, the publishing, what year, all this kind of stuff. Around in between 150 to 220. These are Tucker's original book. Everything after that is commentary. It's all legit commentary by the publisher. And then, so the preface is the publisher's commentary, the 1867 publisher. So the little prophetic piece, the little flashback that I was talking about, that is also from the 1867 publisher. So it was really interesting to kind of dissect this book because there's a lot of firsts in this book, a lot of firsts as far as the very first in print Okay, the legit Pomeroy Tucker section, I like to call it the section. So that's where I stopped. I did not continue reading further past that in regards to this presentation. Okay, so I want to be clear about that. I know the discrepancies of Pomeroy Tucker's book. I know the arguments. Okay, I just laid them out for you. I may not have explained them very well, but believe me, I know them, and that should be what matters to you apostates, is the fact that I do understand that and I do know that, and I may not explain it to you very well, but I understand. Anyways, so with that being said, we only used Pomeroy Tucker's first section of the book. That's it. We stopped there. Okay, and since in modern day, modern world, ChatGPT, we can actually go through and see which words were actually legit added by the publisher. And then as time goes on, the church strikes again. The church and faithful members and things of this sort, they get a hold of this book and totally F it up and completely alter it. So the 1867 version is the closest thing to the original source of Pomeroy Tucker that we are going to get. Just that's it. There's nothing else. Okay. So with that being said, let's continue and let's get into some magic and some Pomeroy Tucker and some other authors, and let's bring this back to life. Okay. So that is the caveat to Tucker's book. So we're going to be exploring the foundations of Mormonism, guided by Pomeroy Tucker and other contemporary authors, contemporary observers. All right. These are all firsthand accounts, apostates. Okay. So look at everything. We're going to look at everything from cave digging. Okay. Now I want you guys to put your Mormon hat on. You guys all know the story of cave digging. Okay. But we're going to get into some stuff that you do not know. This is the original source of the story. Okay. So this is where this legit story comes from. And the story that me and you know is completely fabricated. Okay. So we're going to talk about some cave digging, some seer stones, the Sword of Laban, the Jupiter talismans, the parchment papers, and ritualized offerings. Okay. All of which come from these books. All of it comes from these books. Okay. Okay, so we'll show how these magical practices connect with the greater and lesser keys of Solomon. By the end of this journey, congregation, you'll see early church, you'll see the early church in a way that is shocking, it's fascinating, and it's legitimately undeniable. You cannot deny this. Once you see this stuff, you can never unsee it. You can't unsee it. Okay. So let's get into the starship. Let's go. Let's go back in time. Let's open up the pages of Tucker's book and see what Joseph Smith was really up to, congregation. So let's get into it. Like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Share the videos, watch the videos all the way through. We are not monetized. We will never be monetized. So the only way you can help this channel, support this channel, is by your curiosity. That's it. If you think I'm curious, if you think what I'm talking about is curious, strikes a nerve, I did my job. Okay. I did my job. So like and subscribe to the channel, everybody. Let's get into it. Cave digging. Pomeroy Tucker writes in his book. Now, this is the 1867 edition. Okay. And we're staying true to what that edition says. Okay. Cave digging, Tucker writes, Joseph with several companions. would dig in certain chosen spots, guided by what he called visions, spending hours, sometimes days, prepping the site with precise ceremonies. Okay, so in Tucker's book, he's not really talking about, so he is talking about treasure digging, but what he's also talking about is Joseph digs a cave. This cave that me and you all know that, who was it, Stowell or somebody goes and Joseph says that there's a bunch of silver or something like that in the cave, and or, they dig this cave, right? Well, Tucker tells you the real story of that cave. That cave was a ceremonial cave that Joseph would go in there and spend days and hours in that cave doing ceremonial practices. And he talks about it. His Tucker's entire his section of the book, right? The 67 edition. His section is all about the magical practices of Joseph. Okay. And it's really fascinating because they're telling it to you in an 1830s way. This is 1839. His book originally comes out in 1839, congregation. So we have to put into context of what's going to happen. We can't be fooled by the 67 date. Don't be fooled by that date, right? It's almost like a optical illusion kind of, right? You got to stay true, 67 or 39, right? So remember, these dates are so important. That's why you got to stick to the dates, right? So this account is the first printed description of Joseph Smith's ritualized treasure seeking, laying the foundation for all later reports. Okay, the seer stones, right? This in the greater keys is what's called scrying, right? Glass scrying. Okay, Joseph Smith uses stones, right? The use of stones is widely known. Everybody, like, who you would have to be, your head would have to be in a hat if you did not know the seer stone story. So Tucker writes, he would place a small stone in his hat and, drawing the hat over his eyes, claim to see the exact location of hidden valuables. This practice is the exact same thing in the lesser key, right? It's literally in this book. Okay, scrying. It's in this book. Okay, so where seers use stones to locate hidden objects or treasures, right? It's everything that I'm talking about. You can 100% read in this book, and I'm going to actually show you some of the stuff here in a minute, right? So let's keep going because we're going to get into some good stuff. So stay with me, apostates. We're kind of starting out soft, and we'll get to the good stuff at the end, right? Towards the end. So this practice is the exact same thing in the lesser keys of Solomon, okay? Animal sacrifice. Yes, I did say animal sacrifice. Okay? This is a hidden story in Mormonism. People know about it, right? But it's not a common story, right? It is known about. Hands down, people know about this story, especially the older folks. Because the older folks, they know. All right, so they know the story. We know the story. All right, so it's animal sacrifice. So Tucker, what does he say about it? Pomeroy Tucker, in his book, writes, a black sheep was killed as a form of offering, and the meat was subsequently used by the family. The ceremony was carefully timed with a lunar calendar. Okay, the hour you practice certain rituals at certain hours. It has to be, the moon has to be waxing or waning or full moon, or right. It's all legitimately spelled out in these books. Okay, and you can Google this stuff and just look it up. This stuff is online. You can Google it and look it up. So um, here we see ritual preparation, consecration, okay, and timing, right? Celestial timing, lunar timing, these kinds of things, right? All hallmarks of ceremonial magic. This is all ceremonial magic, okay? Solomonic magic is ceremonial magic, okay? That is like, you would have to be a fool to say otherwise. I mean, that would just, you would be foolish if you said otherwise, right? Solomonic magic is ceremonial magic, right? So this is all hallmarks of ceremonial magic. The Sword of Laban. The Sword of Laban is not in Tucker's book, but it's just one of the many things that is attributed to Joseph Smith's magical practices, right? Okay. On this channel, we will never use the word folk magic. Folk magic is not allowed on this channel. That stuff is BS. Okay. Do not ever use that word on this channel, folk magic. That word is banned. Folk magic is banned on this channel. Okay. You can watch my video, Joseph Smith and Solomonic Magic, and you will understand why. Okay. That is not the source. It was never called folk magic. Okay. People invented that story. That story was invented in the 80s. Okay. This is legit proven, right? This is not speculation or my opinion or anything. Okay. And now it's church history. Okay. We do not use that word because that is not what Joseph was practicing. This is not in the milieu. Okay. I don't want to hear it. We read these books. We read these books on this channel. Okay. So all of you people out there that want to call this folk magic, please follow the history of where that word even came from to begin with, and how that became what it is today. That narrative, it's not folk magic. It never was. That narrative was invented in the 80s, and you all know who did it. I don't even have to say his name. I will never say those three people's name because they have completely discredited Solomonic magic. Absolutely. And you're hucksters. That's wrong. You're hucksters. You know that. You know that. Okay. So the Sword of Laban, it's not in Tucker's book, but it's one of the part of the magical story. The Sword of Laban is described as a magical or ritualized artifact wielded or possessed by Joseph Smith as part of his practices. Ceremonial swords, right? Like ceremonial swords are a classic element of Solomonic ritual magic. You have to draw the circles with your sword. It's a ceremonial magical sword. I'll show you a picture. There's a picture of it in here. Let me find it. Yeah, right here. Right here. It's a description of what it's supposed to be, what it represents, all that kind of stuff. Okay, it's the sword. That is what Joseph called the Sword of Laban right there. Okay. And then over here you have other things for like knives, sickles. I mean, it's all laid out for you, congregation. It's all laid out for you. Okay, so this is the Sword of Laban, the parchment papers. Okay, so Tucker details Joseph handling inscribed parchments and talismans. Okay, Tucker writes, he had carefully inscribed papers, and he believed these papers held great powers when carried or displayed in certain manners. These are what you refer to as layman's. These are in the Goetians, right? Yeah, sometimes you wear them around your neck. They, there are different levels of protection. They're, you just got to keep them on your persons. The best place is around your neck, covering your chest, right? Think of the Urim and Thummim, right? It covers his chest, right? So these are magical practices, right? And so let's keep going. Some of these also correspond to the Jupiter talisman. Okay, so let's look at the Jupiter talisman, congregation. Okay, so the Jupiter talisman, where is that? It's right here, right there. There's your Jupiter talisman, right here. Okay, so the back of the Jupiter talisman, okay, let me see. I want to say it's this one. I want to say it's that one right there. I haven't looked at it in a long time, so I don't really know offhand. But, I'm pretty sure it's that one though. But is what those are though is those. If you look at there's symbols in there. Those symbols are actually Hebrew letters. Okay, and in Hebrew, their number system is represented by letters. So these are actually Hebrew numbers, and it's a they all equal 136, right? And then there's a whole bunch of other stuff, and it's legit, like it's no shit tells you in the book, right? And you can Google this stuff, you can look it up, you can all this stuff, right? And this has to do with planetary magic. And so what the Jupiter talisman is specifically for is, it has all protections and all this kind of stuff, but it's money magic. It's called the money magic of Solomon. Okay. So the Jupiter talisman is what Joseph Smith had in his pocket when he died, right? So the Jupiter talisman represents money magic. So in money magic, you consecrate something blue. This has to do with the Jewish. It's also has to do with the Jewish tree, right? So in Kabbalism, right? The colors they have representations. There's meaning, right? And so when you're dealing with money magic, that color is blue. Okay. So apostates, what color is the Book of Mormon? It's blue. So what is the idea of money magic? The idea is for me to consecrate something blue, and then I give it to you. I give it to you. The idea is for you to give me money. That's the idea. That is the intent. Because in magic, you have to have a clear intent. You can't have an idea, you have to have an intent. So the intent in money magic is for you to give me money. So I give you something blue that I already have consecrated. Okay. Or the consecration can be in the story of whatever's blue. You understand me? You follow me? The the prayer, okay, the prayer is in the book. So every time you read it, you consecrate it. That's the intent. That is legitimately the intent. And then you give me tithing. So I ask you, congregation, did the spell work? Everybody laughs at Solomonic magic and says, "Oh, it's so silly." But look at the smoking gun is a Jupiter talisman. That was legitimately in his pocket when he died. That was in his pocket when he died. Congregation, you know, it's called the third pentacle of Jupiter, is specifically that pentacle of Jupiter, right? It's called the third pentacle of Jupiter. Okay, so um this is like directly, legitimately out of the book of Solomonic magic, right? Okay. So who else is talking other than Tucker, right? Pomeroy Tucker, right? So we're gonna, the Palmyra Freeman, right, was a anti-Masonic newspaper. They're also talking about this. Why would an anti-Masonic newspaper be talking about a speculative religion? Put this stuff together, apostates. I keep telling you. Wayne Sentinel also, right? Now, these are in the years of 1829 to 1831. Okay. That's, with a few of these people, right? These newspapers reported on Joseph's treasure seeking and ritual practices in real time. This is real time stuff, right? Like you don't get any more firsthand account than the freaking newspaper. Do you understand me? So these are confirming, so I talk about all the time about how these books, once you read enough of these books, they start confirming each other, or, it's like a big conversation, right? That's what's taking place within these books, right? So they all start confirming each other. So Pomeroy Tucker's book is legitimately confirming these earlier authors, because the original published date is 1839. So the Palmyra Freeman and the Wayne Sentinel is 1829, right, to 1831, 32-ish time frame. So Tucker's confirming those people, right? And that's just those two. There's countless articles talking about this, right? So Abner Cole. Now we all know who Abner Cole is. He's a satirist, right? He goes by the name Obadiah Dogberry. Okay, nonetheless, we recognize it is satire. We recognize that. We understand that. We get it. Okay. Nonetheless, whatever it is that he's writing about had to have happened, or he wouldn't be writing about it, right? And then he satirizes it. Okay. So, but that's not even my point about Abner Cole. Okay. My point is who Abner Cole is talking about. Lumen Walters. Lumen Walters is a known magician, right? And there is legitimate, verifiable census government records that show this is a real legitimate person, right? He was associated with Joseph, who taught divinatory techniques, right? Now you have to understand what divination is. It is not this stupid shit that Dan Vogel has hoodwinked everybody into thinking. Okay? You're out there with your divining rod, so you are a divinator, right? That's all bullshit. It's part of it, but it's like, hey, that much part of it. Okay? Divination has many things that goes along with it, right? It's just part of it. So the fact that they twist this word to say Lucy Mack, when it legitimately says in her book she was into divination, and scholars and faithful historians take that story and say, well, she had a divining rod. She was looking for water, right? Okay, that's not divination. Okay, Google divination and look up what it means. It's part of it. It like a very, very small part of it, but that's not what it means though. So they put you in the back alley with this magic stuff. They dumb this stuff down, right? They make it sound cute. Tee tee tee. They write books. They have shows. They're hucksters. They're grifters. Okay, they're grifting all of us. These people are grifting us. Okay, so Abner Cole talks about Lumen Walters, the magician, right, associated with Joseph, who taught Abner Lumen Walter. Slow down. Lumen Walters. He taught divination. He was a divination teacher, right? So you got to understand what these are in magic, right? Like, what would that, as a magician, if he's teaching, right? What's his level of experience? You know what I'm saying? Because you don't just teach. This is not stuff that you just dabble in. This is not folk magic bullshit that is in the air of the common people. No, this is legitimate magic, ceremonial magic. You do not dabble in ceremonial magic. You do not dabble in Solomonic magic. Okay? You don't F around with this stuff. This is not something that you just, hey, gee, today, blah, blah, blah. Don't go buy this book unless you really intend on reading it. Like, legit, do not buy this book unless you 100% intend on reading it. Okay? Because otherwise, there's no reason for you to have it. Why would you have it? There's no reason. This is the secret, baby. I'm spilling the beans. This is the secret. Okay? The muse. I haven't talked about the muse in a long time. The muse. Come on, tap into the muse, man. All right, so let's keep going. Abner Cole. This line continues all the way to Tucker and beyond, right? Abner Cole, Lumen Walters, right? If you remember in Abner Cole's article, he talks about how Lumen Walters, like it's all theatrical, right? Like he takes the stick, right? The wand, right? The stick. This is in these books. He takes the stick and he like points it. I think of like He-Man, right? When He-Man pulls out the sword and he points it at I forget the cat's name, Battle Cat, what's Grimace or something like that, the cat's name, and he like, by the power of Grayskull, and then the electrical rod comes out, and the cat, he transforms into Battle Cat, right? Okay, well that's what I think of when I think of like Lumen Walters doing the stick, right? He's like showing the stick. By the power of Grayskull, Joseph Smith is the new man, right? That's what he says. All right, fun stuff. I get a kid. They should really make movies. They should let me write a storyline for some of these movies and make a movie. I would do a killer story, man. I would do a killer story. All right. Anyways, let's keep going. Enough about me. Who is up next? Orsimus Turner. Orsimus Turner. This guy is a real character, let me tell you. Orsimus Turner, if you are into the anti-Masonic literature that some of you are on this channel, you will come across this name, Orsimus Turner. Okay, this is one of the crossover names that I talk about, from anti-Masonic to anti-Mormon. Okay, Orsimus Turner's huge. Okay, he has a lot of early pamphlets, 1830s to the 1832 time frame, 34. Okay. He writes a lot about, he confirms Joseph's use of seer stones, ceremonial timing, okay, which is celestial timing, right? You got to think, what hour is the sun? What day is it? What month? What's the year? All this stuff plays a role, right? This is all, and this planetary magic, right? All roads lead to Solomonic magic. So everybody out there that's screaming at the screen right now, okay, forget what you're thinking. Forget it. You're not right. It all goes back to Solomonic magic. Where does it come from? And if you want to go even further back, what is Solomon? Who is Solomon? What is the temples of Jerusalem? What is Freemasonry all about? Right? What is speculative masonry all about? Right? This is all what is so here's one for you. I'll throw you for a really big loop. What is Solomonic magic? What is it? What is it? Where does it come from? Everything comes from somewhere, apostates. Where does this come from? What is this stuff? This is the Christianized version of the Greek magical papyrus. And you can legitimately read into that and look it up and find it out. Go back to the dragon cults of Solomon, and you know this stuff all ties together, apostates. I keep telling you this stuff, right? It all ties together. All right, let's keep going. Enough about that. That's a whole nother rabbit hole. There's like 80 rabbit holes in that one sentence I just gave you. Okay. Josiah Priest, 1825 to 1831. He also writes and confirms priest documents divination and magical practices in upstate New York, providing additional context and independent corroboration. Okay. These are, divination is not the BS that D. Michael Quinn, Bushman, the Three Amigos, that's not what it is. They're not telling you the full story. Okay. So the Three Amigos really screwed all of us by calling this folk magic. Okay. I mean, like, really, really. Okay. These sources, they show a pattern, and these aren't the only ones. I don't want you to get limited, like, oh, you only gave me 4 sources. These are not the only ones. There's literally dozens and dozens and dozens. You all know the stories, right? We all know the stories. But what we don't know is how it relates to Solomonic magic. That's what we've all been grifted into thinking something else. It's a distraction. We've been distracted. Our minds have been distracted from the truth, yet once again by this effing church, right? It's all a distraction from the truth. Everything is a distraction. The entire Joseph Smith story is a distraction from speculative masonry and the secret societies, okay? And this is literally in these books. This is not stuff I'm making up, congregation. Okay? So let's list them. We got seer stones. Crystal divination is seer stones is equal to crystal divination, and that's in the lesser keys. Okay? That's in this, the lesser keys of Solomon. The Jupiter talisman, that's planetary magic, right? It's planetary, they're called planetary pentacles. And those are in the greater keys of Solomon. Okay. Cave digging. He legitimate in Tucker's book, in Pomeroy Tucker's book, talks about how Joseph enlisted these people to dig a cave. And this cave had ceremony, he would go in there for days and do ceremonial practices. Okay. Animal sacrifice, offerings, ritual purifications, right? Invocations, right? Invocations and evocations are two different things. But the church has us hoodwinked into thinking it's one thing. Invocation. Invocation and evocation are completely two different things. Okay. You have to understand what those mean, right? All of this stuff you can Google. You can literally Google everything. All of you magicians out there, all of you, chaos magic, Wicca, the list goes on. You all know what I'm talking about. You all know what I'm talking about when it comes to this book. Every one of you do. So make the correlations to Mormonism through this book because it's all there. It's literally all there, right? The Sword of Laban, right, is the ceremonial sword, right? Notice the alignment, right? Uh, this, this is just a few. This is only a few. We all know the stories. Yeah, I say the parchment papers, but there's three different parchment papers. All three of those parchment papers you can find in these books and what they mean. Why is that one in a circle, in a spiral circle? I forget the name of that particular one, but why is that, right? Let me see. I think I can, hold on. Let me show you real quick. Hold on. Hold on. I'm looking for it. I'm looking for it. Uh, that is the wrong one. So let's look in this one. Here we go. Right here. There it is, right there. That is your template for that parchment paper. It's written in a circle. Okay. That is called the magic ring or disc of Solomon, is what that is called. So that parchment paper, that Joseph Smith parchment paper, that we all know, you can Google it, and it's got the spiral, right, with all the words and nobody knows what it means. You can enter that thing into ChatGPT, upload that into ChatGPT, and it will completely tell you everything about that. And all of those names and all of the gods and all that stuff are all in these books. Elohim, Elohim, Jehovah, right? They're all in here. Here, I'll read you a prayer. What page is that on? I'll read you a prayer here real quick. Page 28. And tell me if you don't recognize this prayer. Okay, you ready? This is legitimately out of the Greater Key of Solomon. Okay. Uh right there. Okay. Here we go. O Lord God, Holy Father, Almighty and Merciful One. Sound familiar? O God, the Eternal Father, the Almighty and Merciful One, who has created all things, who knoweth all things, and can do all things, from whom nothing is hidden, to whom nothing is impossible. Thou who knowest that we perform not these ceremonies to tempt thy power, but that we may penetrate into the knowledge of hidden things. We pray thee, eh? By thy sacred merciful to cause, by the sacred mercy to cause, and no permit that we may arrive at this understanding of secret things, of whatever nature they may be, by thine aid, O host, holy Adonai, whose kingdom and power shall have no end unto the ages of the ages. Amen. I'm just saying, apostates, I've been to Sacrament a few times. Oh God, the eternal Father. All right, let's keep going. Let's see, where was I? I just lost my place. Okay, let's see. The Sword of Laban, we talked about. Okay, we talked about Abner Cole. Sorry, apostates. I flipped through my papers here and I lost my place. So we just listed those. Okay, notice the alignments, right? And these are just a few that we're talking about. The ritual preparation, apostates, the sacred objects, the invocations, the evocations, right? I invocations, evocations. They're two different things. Celestial timing, right? All hallmarks of Solomonic magic. Everything that we are talking about is 100% legitimately in these books. Okay. And you can read them. You can read them for yourself. You can Google it. You can go online. You can look it up. It's all there. It's all literally there. Okay. So let's consider Pomeroy Tucker. In 1839, he provides the first printed narrative. Narrative, that's important. The first printed narrative of Joseph Smith's magical practices. Okay. Multiple contemporary sources confirm this. In one way or another, they're talking about something, but they never put it into a narrative like Tucker does. That's the thing with Tucker, is he puts this into a narrative, right? Even the 34 edition of Mormonism Unveiled does not do what Pomeroy Tucker does. Okay. So all of you people out there, oh, Mormon, you know, like you guys are all married to the book Mormonism Unveiled for some reason, right? Well, you know, get off it. Get off that book. There's so many better books out there. And Mormonism Unveiled is another distraction. Okay. It's got legitimacy to it, but it's they use that book to distract you from everybody else that's writing. How many episodes on this channel? We literally talk about a different author in every episode, congregation. So there's dozens and dozens of these authors writing about this stuff, right? So these practices are Solomonic magic, okay? Ceremonial magic. This is ceremonial magic, okay? You got to take talismans, invocations, ritual preparations. Remember the goat or the black sheep, right? He cuts the throat of the black sheep and he spreads it around the circle, right? This is all and this is all described in Pomeroy Tucker's book, right? There we observed the intentional and patterned uh, forming the foundations of the church. right? This was observed, right? This was intentional. These are the foundational patterns of the church, right? That's like, you can't argue that, apostate congregation. To argue that would to say Joseph Smith was not doing this stuff. That it's all a lie. It's all made up. Nobody, like, it's all made up. His mother's lying, his wife, his friends, the other apostles, the everybody's lying. Okay. That's the only way you can defend this. That's it. So thank you, congregation. This is going to be kind of an introductory level, right? Because there is an extreme amount to unpack in this story, right? And this is not just something you can do one little thing, because every one of you out there already have questions. Well, what does this mean? How do you explain that? What does that mean? What about this story? What about blah, 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 right? It's all there. Okay. So this is not just a one episode, hey, here it is, right? There's a lot of explaining to do. But just on its face, for what it is Solomonic magic. Like it or not, Mormonism is Solomonic magic. I will end with this, congregation. How does Solomonic magic relate to Freemasonry? That's an interesting question. Interesting question. How does Solomonic magic relate to Freemasonry in the 1800s? In the 1800s, in the 1700s, the 1600s, the 1800s, the 1400s, the 1300s, the 1200s? How does this all correlate? What are we talking about here? Okay. Okay, apostate congregation, like and subscribe to the channel. We are not monetized. We will never be monetized. Okay, so the only way you can help and support this channel is by your curiosity and your intrigue. Read this stuff, look it up, Google it, fact check me 100%, and then tell your friend whatever you find, right? And go from there. But I would really appreciate it because it helps out my algorithms if you subscribe, like the videos, share them with your friends, YouTube, X, Instagram, all that stuff. I don't know, whatever else there is. I'm not a social media person, so I don't know. But anyways, get it out there. Pass the word out. Thank you, apostate congregation. And in the words of the late great Solomon Southwick, the ashes of Morgan will rise. And here we are, apostate congregation. Here we are. The ashes of Morgan have risen again. And here we are. So thank you, congregation. And we will see you on the other side.